If you can't stay consistent on YouTube, it's probably not a discipline problem. Because when you think you just need more discipline, you do what seems logical. You make another schedule, you set stricter rules, you promise yourself this time will be different. And then when it doesn't last, you assume the problem is you. But in working with creators, here's what I found. What looks like inconsistency is usually one of 5 deeper root causes running beneath the surface. And once you can diagnose which one is actually driving your inconsistency, you can stop blaming yourself and start solving the problem at the level where it actually lives. Now, before we get to the 5 root causes, we need to be clear about what discipline can actually do. Because discipline works, just not for everything. Discipline is useful for one specific kind of problem. It closes the gap between what you plan to do and what you feel like doing in the moment. You know you should film today. You don't feel like it, but you film anyway. That's discipline doing its job. And it works best when the resistance is manageable, when you don't feel like doing the thing, but you still have enough capacity to do it. But when consistency still feels hard, even though you care, even though you're really trying, even though nobody could honestly call you lazy, that's usually a sign the gap isn't small. And this is where you can get stuck. You treat every consistency problem like it just needs more discipline. So you try to force more discipline onto a problem that may not be about discipline at all. So let's look at the 5 root causes. Root cause number 1 is emotional avoidance. And it's sneaky because it often doesn't feel like avoidance. It feels like you're busy or tired or just not in the right headspace today. But here's what's often happening. You're not avoiding the task. You're avoiding the feeling attached to the task. Filming brings up exposure. Editing brings up the fear that it won't be good enough. Publishing brings up judgment. So your brain does what your brain is designed to do. Your nervous system reads that discomfort as a small threat. So it protects you by finding a way out, usually toward whatever feels safer in the moment. And this is why discipline keeps failing you here. Discipline pushes against the behavior, while the real driver is the emotion attached to it. You might be able to push through it once, but if you never address the feelings underneath it, the avoidance usually finds another way to show up. Emotional avoidance may be the root cause if you keep delaying the exact part of the process that makes you feel exposed. And once you see that avoidance can hide in normal creator habits, the next one becomes easier to spot. Because sometimes avoidance doesn't sound like fear. Sometimes it sounds like, I just need to make it better first. Root cause number 2 is perfectionism. And on the surface, this one almost looks like a strength. You have high standards, you care about quality, but at some point, the standard stops helping and starts getting in the way. The video has to be perfect before you film. The script has to be flawless before you record. The idea has to be fully formed before you start. So you wait, and waiting feels productive because you tell yourself you're improving it or making it better. But a lot of the time, it's still avoidance. When your standards become the bottleneck, the issue usually isn't your work ethic. It's that good enough to publish has turned into good enough to protect me from judgment. And that's a very different standard. More discipline usually won't fix that. Perfectionism may be the root cause if you keep improving the work past the point where it's useful, because it never feels quite good enough. But perfectionism still lives pretty close to the work itself. The next root cause goes deeper because it's not just about how you create, it's about who you believe you are as a creator. Root cause number 3 is identity misalignment. This is where the problem moves from what you do to who you believe you are. There's a well-known NLP model developed by Robert Dilts called the logical levels of change. You'll usually see it shown as a pyramid. And the idea here is that a problem can show up at one level, while the real change needs to happen at another. One of those levels is behavior, which is what you do. A higher level is identity, which is who you believe you are. And the reason this matters is because consistency may show up as a behavior problem, but if the real issue is identity, discipline alone won't create lasting change. If some part of you still doesn't see yourself as a consistent creator, another plan can only take you so far, because over time, behavior tends to drift back toward identity. So when there's a gap between the creator you're trying to become and the creator you still believe you are, the belief usually wins. And that's why identity misalignment can look like inconsistency from the outside. Your schedule says, I'm a consistent creator, but the way you see yourself still says, I'm not someone who follows through. Identity misalignment may be the root cause if you keep making plans like a consistent creator, but deep down, you still don't see yourself as one. But sometimes the issue isn't that you don't see yourself as consistent. Sometimes it's that 2 parts of you are pulling in opposite directions. Root cause number 4 is internal conflict. This is when different parts of you want different things. One part of you wants to grow, more reach, more impact, a bigger channel. But another part of you wants to stay safe because growth means more visibility, more expectation, and more chances to be judged or fail in public. So one part of you hits the gas while the other part quietly hits the brakes. From the outside, it looks like inconsistency, but from the inside, it feels like you keep sabotaging yourself for no reason. But there's always a reason. The part of you that pulls back isn't broken. It's trying to protect you from something. And you cannot out-discipline a part of yourself that's convinced staying small is what keeps you safe. You have to understand what it's trying to protect you from. Because if growth still feels unsafe, that part of you will keep resisting it. Internal conflict may be the root cause if one part of you wants to move forward, but another part keeps pulling you back. And then there's one more root cause that can look like all the others from the outside, but it requires a completely different response. Root cause number 5 is burnout. And this one gets misread more than any of the others because burnout may not look the way you expect it to. It can be subtle. Sometimes it just looks like slowly caring less, running out of ideas, feeling heavy every time you sit down to create. You're not lazy, you're depleted. There's a real difference. Lazy is a choice you can make differently in the moment. Depletion is an empty tank. And when your tank is empty, trying harder is the worst possible advice because trying harder is exactly what emptied your tank in the first place. If you've been running on pressure, urgency, and exhaustion for months, your inconsistency might not be a discipline problem at all. It might be your system asking for recovery. Sometimes recovery has to come first, not because you've earned it, but because your system needs it before it can keep going. And this is why burnout is so easy to misdiagnose. From the outside, it can look like you need more discipline, but what you actually need is recovery, capacity, and a different way of working. Burnout may be the root cause if creating used to feel meaningful and now energy is low and even simple tasks feel heavy. So if one of those root causes felt uncomfortably familiar, here's what I want you to do next. Use it to choose the response that actually fits. Because emotional avoidance, perfectionism, identity misalignment, internal conflict, and burnout all have one thing in common. Not one of them gets solved by pushing harder. Each root cause needs a different response, which is why the question isn't, how do I get more disciplined? A better question is, what is my inconsistency trying to show me? So here's the simple way to work through it. I call it diagnose before you discipline. The first step is to notice the pattern. Where does consistency usually start to break down for you? Is it filming, editing, publishing, planning, or showing up again after a video underperforms? The place where your inconsistency shows up most frequently is your first clue. The second step is to name the root cause. Are you avoiding a feeling? Are you trying to make it perfect? Are you operating from an old identity? Is part of you hitting the brakes? Or are you genuinely running on empty? Then the third step is to match the response. Once you know the root cause, the next step is to choose the response that actually fits. Emotional avoidance needs you to stay with the feeling instead of running from it and to create safety. Perfectionism needs a clear publishing standard. Identity misalignment needs a new self-image. Internal conflict needs inner alignment. Burnout needs recovery and capacity. Once you understand the real root cause, consistency becomes a different kind of problem. It's not about forcing yourself harder. It's about understanding what's actually getting in the way and responding to it in a way that actually fits. So let me ask you something. Out of those 5 root causes, which one sounded most like you? Don't overthink it. The one you felt a little resistance to is usually the one worth looking at. Let me know in the comments. And if you want more videos like this one on the mindset side of growing a YouTube channel, I'd love for you to like and subscribe. This is a brand new channel and I'm building it for creators who want to grow with more clarity, consistency, and resilience without burning out. But consistency is only one piece of this. A lot of creators are doing everything right on paper and still feel stuck. And it has nothing to do with effort. That's exactly what I break down in the next video, where I'll walk through the 6 creator mindset gaps that can keep you stuck, even when your strategy is solid. So if this helped you see your consistency differently, that's the video I'd watch next. I'll see you there.